American soccer is about to change forever. The United Soccer League has announced plans that could reshape the entire landscape of professional soccer in this country. A new Division I league and the introduction of promotion and relegation.
For decades, American soccer fans have debated whether promotion and relegation could work in the United States. Now we're about to find out. But with this massive announcement comes even more unanswered questions.
Today, we're breaking down the biggest unknowns about USL's ambitious plans. When will this happen? How many teams? What about the clubs that don't meet the standards? And perhaps most importantly, can this actually work?
Stick around because we're diving deep into everything we know, everything we don't, and what it all means for the future of American soccer. And we want to hear from you in the comments. Let's debate this together.
Let's start with the question that's on everyone's mind. When is this actually going to happen?
When USL announced their Division I plans in the spring of 2025, they identified 2027 or 2028 as the target launch window for the new top-tier league. Not long after, an even bigger bombshell announcement came from the league office.
Promotion and relegation was voted on and approved by USL's member clubs, sending shockwaves across the American soccer landscape. In March 2025, USL announced that its owners had voted to adopt a promotion and relegation system. The league said updates would follow, quote, in the coming months, unquote. When we reached out in September for those updates, we were told that there were none at this time.
Without new information, it leads us to speculation about what the plans may be, or maybe even the plans for the new league and the pro-rel system aren't coming together at all.
But here's the thing. Silence from USL on these details isn't necessarily a bad sign. This is complicated stuff, and they're likely working through negotiations with US Soccer, ironing out the professional league standards issues we'll talk about later, and making sure all the pieces fit together before making promises they can't keep.
Still, for fans who've been waiting years, decades even, for pro-rel in America, that timeline can feel painfully slow. What do you think? In 2027, 2028, is that reasonable? Or should USL be moving faster? Or could this take way longer than expected to implement? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Okay, so we've talked about the timeline. Let's move on to the structure we're working with. How many teams are we looking at in each division?
USL's vision is a three-tiered pyramid. The new Division I league at the top, the USL Championship as the second division, and USL League One as the third tier.
Now, here's where US Soccer's professional league standards come into play. To get First Division sanctioning, a league needs to start with at least 12 teams. By the third year, that minimum bumps up to 14 teams.
But the PLS includes a lot more than just team counts. Stadium standards, ownership requirements, television contracts, financial stability. Not every current USL club meets all these requirements, which is where waivers come in. And we'll talk more about that thorny issue in a bit.
Let's look at the current numbers. As of 2025, the USL Championship has 24 teams, with 3 more joining in 2026 and another 3 slated for 2027. That's potentially 30 teams in the USL Championship.
Meanwhile, USL League One currently has 14 teams, but is adding a whopping 7 expansion clubs in 2026. If all goes according to plan, League One could be sitting at about 20 teams.
So here's the math problem. If USL needs 12 to 14 teams for a first division, and you've got 30 in the championship and 20 in League One, how do you divvy that up? And what happens to clubs that don't meet Division I standards but finish at the top of the championship table?
The reality is that the final numbers for each division will likely be dictated by a combination of the professional league standards, the number of waivers USL receives, and which clubs are actually ready to make the jump.
I think we'll see something like 14 to 16 teams in the first division to start off with, 16 to 20 in the USL Championship, and in the rest of the teams in League One. But that is pure speculation at this point.
So tell us what your ideal pyramid structure looks like. Would you rather see smaller divisions with more competitive balance or bigger divisions with more clubs and more matches? Hit us up in the comments below. All right, we know roughly when this might happen and how many teams might be in each division. But here's the million-dollar question. How many clubs will actually move between divisions each year?
In traditional pro-rel systems like England, Spain, or Italy, 3 teams typically go up and 3 teams typically go down. But examples do exist with just 2 teams or even just a single team in the smaller leagues making the move.
For USL, this decision is exponentially more complicated because of those professional league standards we keep mentioning.
Think about it. What happens when a club wins the championship, earns promotion to the first division, but their stadium only seats 5,000 people? And as we now know, the D1 standards requires 15,000.
This is where US Soccer's willingness to grant waivers becomes absolutely critical. Without a clear waiver policy, you could have a situation where a team wins promotion on the field but can't move up administratively. And that would be a disaster for the credibility of the entire system.
USL has not indicated yet what proposals are on the table. Are they thinking 3 up, 3 down to match the European traditions? Or will they start conservatively with just 1 or 2 teams to make sure they're working out all the kinks?
There's also the question of parachute payments. When a club gets relegated from a higher division, they lose revenue from higher attendance, better TV deals, and increased sponsorship. In England, relegated Premier League clubs receive parachute payments to cushion the financial blow.
Will USL implement something similar? Will there be safety nets for these relegated clubs, or will it be sink or swim?
And here's another wrinkle. What about playoff promotion? Some leagues use a playoff system for the final promotion spot. Could USL adopt a hybrid model where the top finisher gets automatic promotion, but second through fifth battle it out in a playoff?
These are the details that will make or break this system. Get it right, and you create compelling drama and a competitive balance. Get it wrong, and you create chaos and a whole lot of instability.
So tell us what you think is the right number. Should USL go big with 3 teams or start small and scale up? And should there be playoffs for promotion? Let us know in the comments.
We've covered the basics, but there are still so many critical questions that the USL has not answered yet. Let's run through some of these biggest questions. First, what exactly is the process for clubs that win promotion but don't meet PLS standards? Is it automatic waivers, a grace period to meet these requirements, or simply stay down despite earning promotions with their efforts on the field?
Second, is USL actively working with US Soccer on the professional league standards? Are they negotiating? Are they seeking clarification, pushing for reforms? The relationship between USL and US Soccer will determine whether this whole thing succeeds or fails.
Third, parachute payments. We touched on this, but will relegated teams receive financial support to help them adjust? This could be the difference between clubs surviving relegation or simply collapsing entirely.
Fourth, territorial rights. Right now, USL clubs have territorial rights that prevent other USL professional teams from setting up shop in their markets. Will those rights remain in place after ProRel implementation? Can a USL League 2 team move into the pyramid in the same market as an existing USL club?
This is huge. If territorial rights stay in place, it limits where new USL professional clubs can be located. If they're abolished, you could see direct competition between clubs in markets all across the country.
Fifth, expansion after ProRel. Once the system is in place, will new clubs have to enter at the bottom, League 1, and work their way up? Or can wealthy ownership groups buy their way into Division 1 or the Championship as expansion franchises?
If USL allows clubs to buy in at higher divisions, does that undermine the whole point of promotion relegation? But if they don't, does that discourage investment from ownership groups who want to start at the higher level?
Sixth, waivers. How many PLS waivers is USL expecting to request from US Soccer? For how many clubs? And critically, how long will those waivers last? 1 year, 3 years, indefinitely?
If waivers are short term, clubs will need to make massive investments to meet those standards very quickly. If they're long term or permanent waivers, does that defeat the whole purpose having these standards at all?
Seventh, the Division 1 application process. How many clubs have applied so far? What are the deadlines? What does the vetting process look like? USL has been tight lipped about this, but transparency here would go a long way towards building trust.
And finally, what happens to USL 2? That's the amateur fourth tier here. How will clubs at that level interact with the professional pyramid? Can they earn promotion to League One? Will there be any kind of bridge between the amateur and the professional soccer worlds?
These aren't just administrative details, these are fundamental questions about how the entire system will operate. And right now, we don't have answers to most of them.
Which of these questions matters most to you? What would you prioritize if you were running USL? Let's hear your takes in the comments.
Let's zoom out for a moment. Yes, there are tons of unanswered questions. Yes, the timeline is uncertain. Yes, this is complicated and risky. But let's talk about why this matters.
American soccer has been stuck in this closed system for decades. Major League Soccer operates as a single entity franchise model. There's no promotion, no relegation, no consequences for failure beyond having a bad season. And while MLS has grown tremendously and deserves a ton of credit for professionalizing soccer in the country, that model has its limitations.
ProRel introduces stakes. It means every match matters, not just for playoff positioning, but for survival. It means smaller markets can dream big, win enough matches, and you're in Division One. It means underperforming clubs face real consequences.
And it opens up the pyramid. Right now, if you want to start a professional club in America, you need hundreds of millions of dollars to buy an MLS franchise. With ProRel, there is a mechanism to start lower and climb the ladder through sporting merit on the field.
But, and this is important, ProRel isn't a magic solution. It's not going to automatically make American soccer better overnight. It's a structure. And like any structure, it can be built well or it can be built poorly.
The success of USL's system here will depend entirely on the details we've been discussing. How will these waivers work? How relegated teams will be supported? If standards are enforced fairly, and whether the economic model is sustainable at all.
And let's be real, this is risky for USL. They're challenging the established order. They're making promises they'll be held to. If this fails, it could set back the conversation about ProRel in America for another generation.
But if it succeeds, if USL managed to pull this off, it could fundamentally change American soccer. It could create a genuine meritocracy here. It could make us look more like the rest of the world soccer system.
So that's the stakes. That's what we will be watching unfold over the next few years.
And that's where we are right now. Tons of questions, some educated guesses, and a whole lot of anticipation.
We'll be following this story closely and bringing you updates as soon as USL provides them. In the meantime, we want this to be a conversation.
Do you think USL's Division 1 and promotion relegation plans will work out? What questions do you have that we didn't cover here? And which of these issues matters to you the most?
Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Let's debate this. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into American soccer.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to enjoy your soccer.